So in each time period, we have different betas for Tesla stock. This fact proves that beta estimates are sensitive to the time period that is observed. In summary, the beta was 0.5478 for the period between June 29, 2010 and December 31st, 2013. It was 0.7257 for the period between January 1st, 2014 and December 31st, 2018. Or, of course, we can round these values to the nearest hundreds for this period 0.55 and for the second period 0.73, and it was 2.44, remember, for the time period between January 1st, 2019 and December 31st, 2023. And for the last period, remember, my calculations match those on Yahoo Finance and other similar resources because actually we follow the same procedure, we use the same input values. But the value 2.44 is the beta currently used by the practitioners as it is the norm in finance that a 5-year back monthly beta is used in financial models. And as you will see, in different time periods, we have estimated different beta values. Nonetheless, this great example clearly demonstrates that beta is very sensitive to the time period observed. So we can say that beta is affected by the following input values. First one, time period observed. Practitioners use full past 5 years, as I did for the last period of this example, and time interval use, that is monthly or weekly, and practitioners use monthly. And market portfolio against which the individual stock is benchmarked, generally S&P 500 is used, and whether close or adjusted close values for the stock price of the stock we are investigating are used, and practitioners use close values rather than adjusted close values. So if you change one of these input values, actually you will end up having a different estimate for the beta. So as a statistical measure, beta is sensitive to these considerations. The question, remember, also asks us to identify the industry Tesla operates in. First, we need to identify Tesla's industry. I will rely on the information on FINRA. Remember, you are already familiar with FINRA from the previous chapters in this course. So FINRA identifies Tesla as an auto manufacturer, and according to Professor Damodaran, there are three industries involving automotive: auto and truck, auto parts, and retail automotive, each of which has different beta values. If we were to assume that Professor Damodaran identifies Tesla in auto and truck industry, then its beta will be 1.52, which is very different from the value we calculated for the period between 2019 and 2023. So the difference might result from the differences between the companies in the industry and Tesla, namely their product offerings, leverages, long-term strategies, and alike. Nonetheless, I still recommend that you use companies' past data to estimate its beta rather than rely on an industry-wide beta. Practitioners, finance professionals, textbooks, and digital finance resources rely on the company's past data to estimate its beta, but you can also compare the value you calculated by relying on the company's past data. You can compare it with these industry-wide betas as well. How much the company you are investigating is different from the companies within the broader industry. And also here, I put the link in here. You can look from FINRA which industry Tesla operates in. Here we have industry as auto manufacturers and sector is consumer cyclical. And based on that, you can click on this link and Professor Damodaran provides you with all the beta estimates in terms of industry-wide observations. So when you think that Tesla operates in the auto and truck, we have the industry-wide beta of 1.52. And now let's look at the determinants of beta in more detail. So by now you have learned that betas of firms vary, and beta is determined by the characteristics of the firm, the cyclical nature of revenues, and operating leverage, both of which depend on the firm's real operations, can be thought of as the set of projects on the asset side of a firm's balance sheet, as well as financial leverage. For example, two firms with identical operations can still have different betas because of the difference in the amount of debt on the liability side of the balance sheet will affect the value of beta. Let's start with the first one, cyclicality of revenues. Firms that have cyclical revenues tend to do well in the expansion phase of the business cycle and poorly in the contraction phase. Empirical evidence demonstrates that high-tech firms, retailers, and automotive firms fluctuate with the business cycle, while firms in the industry such as utilities, railroads, and food are less affected by the cycle. As beta measures the responsiveness of a stock's return to the market's return, you should expect highly cyclical stocks. To have high betas. Be mindful of the fact that cyclicality is different from variability, which is captured by the standard deviation of the returns on the company's stock. For example, a movie-making firm has highly variable returns because hits and flops are not easy to predict and estimate. Nonetheless, because the revenues of a studio are more dependent on the quality of its releases than the phase of the business cycle, motion picture companies are not particularly cyclical. Example given in a downturn of the world economy, these companies can still release great movies and generate high revenues and profits. Alternative stocks, we are saying the same thing here by saying alternative stocks with high standard deviations do not need to have high betas, as was exemplified by the case of the movie makers above.